My son stood up in a courtroom, knocked his little chair over, and said, "Please don't take our mom." The judge froze with the gavel halfway in the air, eyes locked on my three, like he'd seen ghosts. In that hush, I felt something shift, like the room finally heard the truth before the law did. My name's Lena Brooks. I'm not loud by nature. I'm the woman who wipes ketchup off Formica and teaches spelling at a chipped kitchen table. But life doesn't ask if you're ready before it turns you into headlines, you know what I mean. And mine started at the Rusty Skillet on Maple, a diner with floors that squeak and coffee that could wake the dead. I begged my boss, Buck Daniels, to let my kids sit in the corner coloring because school let out early. He came out from behind the counter like a referee and said, "Lena, this ain't a daycare." I said, "Buck, please, it's just today." And he smirked, the way men smirk when they think rules make them holy. Choice was, when you had those kids, now you're choosing my patience, then my boy Jay, all 7 years, and stubborn as a fence post, stood and said, "Don't talk to my mom like that. She works harder than you." The room went quiet, forks in midair, and Buck fired me in front of everybody. We walked out with the bell laughing at us, climbed the stairs of our brown building, found a 10-day eviction notice taped to the door like a red slap, neighbors whispering. Poor things, and should have thought about rent before kids. I got the kids inside and I slid down the door and cried into my own hands. It was not dignified. It was human. Zoe, my girl, with a ribbon always halfway loose, pressed her forehead to mine. "We're your soldiers, Mama Eli." My quiet one held up a spelling test, like a shield. Jay wrapped around me and said, "We'll be loud if we have to," and I believed them, because sometimes your children lend you their spine. Then the landlord showed up, Vince Ricci, belly pressed to his belt, voice pitched for the stairwell, past due. "Miss Brooks, you and those three are out," Zoe said. "Don't talk to our mama like that." He bent down so close I could smell the cheap cologne and said, "Little girls need to learn respect." Jay planted his feet. "She earns it." Eli's voice floated up like a prayer. "We're not scared of you." Vince spat on the concrete and said, "Let's see how brave you are when the sheriff comes." That night I didn't sleep the next morning. I took them in washed shirts to New Hope Baptist, because Pastor Boone has hands like they've fixed cars for 40 years, and a way of saying, "We'll pass the plate that doesn't pretend it solves everything." He put a hand on Jay's shoulder. "No one's taking you. If I've got breath, hope is honest like that. It doesn't lie. It just keeps you from feeling empty." Back home, while beans and rice simmered and I counted dollars with my eyes, Jay wandered into my room and found what I bury under old tax forms, a yellowed envelope with a name that still stings, Nolan. He slid the letter out. "I can't be a father right now. My family wouldn't accept it. I'm sorry I burned it in the trash can before the smoke alarm woke up," snapped. "That name doesn't matter. Don't go through my drawers." Watched his face close like a window in a storm. Some things burn, but don't disappear. 2 days later, Ms. Alvarez from Child Services walked softly through our life. Gray suit, flat shoes, kind eyes that didn't go soft. She took inventory of our fridge, the peeling paint, the bills stacked neat and useless. "Your children are loyal," she said. "They're what I have," I said. "Court next week," she answered. Not threatening, not soothing, just the truth. The summons came with a deputy family court custody review 1 week, and my kids started writing speeches in crayon. Our mom is the best mom in the world, adorable and terrifying, because it meant they knew love isn't always accepted as evidence. The courthouse looked like a bank swallowed a church, marble too shiny, ceilings too high, guards who could pick you up by your shoulders and set you on the sidewalk. If they wanted, we walked in, holding hands, heads up, eyes forward. "Don't let them see us small," I whispered. And when our case was called, Judge Cole Harrington adjusted his glasses and studied us like a song he used to know. The prosecutor spoke in a voice that has never missed breakfast. "Unstable housing, lack of income, father. Absent." He called Vince first. Vince told lies like they were on sale. "The kids run wild, lights off, fridge empty, heard them digging in the trash." And Zoe popped up before I could grab her. "That's a lie." Jay stood too. "We don't dig in trash. Mom goes hungry, so we don't." Eli lifted his paper. "I got 100 because she studied with me. Is that what bad moms do?" The room held its breath. The judge's knuckles went white on the gavel. And that was the first time I saw the recognition, like he was looking into a mirror he didn't want. The whispers started by lunch. "Don't they look like him? Those eyes, that jawline," and the prosecutor floated it like a leaf on a pond. "Perhaps a paternity test would clarify responsibilities," the judge said under advisement, voice cracking like old wood. Next day, the heat cranked higher. Reporters found us microphones, looked hungry. Vince performed again, and the judge said, "Ms. Brooks, cross. I am not a lawyer. I am a mother with receipts. How many maintenance tickets did I file when the heat died in December?" I asked. He blinked. I held up 6 copies. "How many days off?" He mumbled 3. I looked at the bench and told the truth. The expensive folks never want to hear. I boiled water to steam the air, wrapped my kids in blankets, still sent them to school with homework done. He calls that neglect. I call it refusing to let my children watch me panic. Then Zoe swayed, fell forward, that hollow thud of forehead on wood. And before anyone else moved, Judge Harrington threw the gavel down and flew off the bench, hands steady on her head, voice breaking. "Call an ambulance now." The whole room saw it. The robe slipped, the man show, and I said through my teeth, "Don't touch her. You lost that right when you mailed sorry in an envelope." "Yeah, that happened. At the hospital he came in without the robe." "Lena, we can't keep this up. They'll force the truth," I said. "There was never a we. There was me at 3 a.m. Me pawning a necklace for shoes. Me signing forms alone. You wrote a letter and called it a plan." He flinched, looked at Jay pretending to sleep, and left with his hands shoved in pockets like they were empty. The day the DNA came back, the building could barely hold the noise. The clerk handed an envelope. The judge opened it like peeling skin. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. He said our names and then said, "I am their biological father." The room tore open. Reporters ran. Someone hissed, "Coward." Jay stood and let his truth fly. "We don't care about your blood. You weren't there when Mom cried at the sink, when the lights went dark, and she told ghost stories, so we wouldn't notice when Eli won the spelling bee, when Zoe sang at church, when kids teased me for not having a dad. Mom was, and in that moment, the judge looked like a building finally admitting its foundation is cracked." He recused himself the next morning, and Judge Aria Mendoza walked in with a face that could balance a city. She said, "We'd do it clean." The prosecutor tried math again, resources, structure, a house with a yard. "Love doesn't pay the electric," Ms. Alvarez told the truth. "That never trends scarcity, but not neglect, strong bond, safe children. Improvement measured by what a child holds when the lights go out. On that measure, they're rich." Pastor Boone talked about showing up. The school counselor laid out attendance and notes about my 3 encouraging other kids without being asked. When it was my turn, I didn't pretend the fear wasn't there. I said, I couldn't make a man stay, or a boss keep me, or a landlord fix a radiator. But I have never let these 3 doubt where they belong. If this court wants to help us live, not leave. Don't tear roots and call it gardening. Judge Mendoza looked at my kids and gave them 1 sentence each. Jay said, We're not giving up our mom, Zoe said. Family is who stays. Eli lifted his folder like a flag. Please let us go home. And the judge ruled with a steady voice. Custody remains with Ms. Brooks. Immediate stabilization support. Rental mediation, food benefits, job placement. As for the biological father, no custody transfer. Any contact starts in restorative family counseling, at the mother's discretion and the father's expense. An invitation to accountability, not a prize. 6 months later, our key fit. A different lock, Sunlight didn't have to fight its way in second-hand couch that didn't sag a magnet calendar with more color than bills, a badge on the counter that said, Lena Brooks, Patient Services, Riverside Memorial. Dinner tasted like seasoning, not panic. Jay slid in socks and mumbled, Coach says I'm starting at point. I pointed at his backpack and said, start with homework. Zoe waved a choir flyer. Don't be late, I have a solo. Eli handed me a letter with a gold seal and whispered, and like good news, might spook district spelling team. We spun until we were dizzy. Pastor Boone and 2 church ladies dropped groceries and made the kitchen feel like abundance on purpose. Then a soft knock, a suit without a robe. Regret holding a hat, Cole. Harrington or Nolan, depending which story you tell, rumor said. He resigned before the hearing board could strip him, and sat twice in the last pew. At New Hope, he handed me an envelope and a cashier's check, college funds. No strings. Responsibility will pay the rest. I'm in counseling the kind the court ordered. If you ever decide they might want supervised time, when you're ready, my number hasn't changed. He tucked a handwritten letter under it. I told him, you kept them out of your life for 7 years, he nodded. You kept them safe. I didn't deserve that kindness. It wasn't for you, I said. Yeah, that happened too. Saturday, Moan tapped the church roof. Front row had 3 name cards in careful loops. Zoe read a poem too big for the walls, Mama Don't Break. Even when the door won't open. Even when the world says you ain't enough. Mama bends and holds and grows us tall. People stood before, she finished. I cried the way your body does when it finally believes the emergency is over, and in the back, a man slipped in late and left early without asking for anything, just listening like he was learning a new language. That night, under a roof that felt like hours for real, Jay asked the question that keeps coming around, are we okay? Mama. I ran a hand through his hair. We're better than okay. How do you know? Because I stopped trying to be everything and let love be enough. Lights out, city, hush, one eye on the top shelf where the envelope waits for a day. I'll choose not for the world. For my 3. Now I want to hear you if it were you. Do you open the door to supervised visits because accountability needs a chance, or hold the boundary because consequences teach too? Do courts judge poor mothers harder than rich fathers? Have you seen poverty called neglect when it isn't? Tell me what justice looks like. Where you live, drop your take, argue, be kind. And if this hit home, share it with the one person who needs to hear that sometimes a room full of whispers can be humbled by a little voice saying, please don't take our mom.